Hello, welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. So I want to continue talking about the lessons that I have learned from my brother. These are lessons that are very important, and these times and these stories are very special to me. So thank you for letting me share them with you. I want to talk about a story. I don't remember how old I was, but I am thinking that I was maybe the age of 10 when this story happened. And I need to mention again, for those of you that have not been listening, this is your first time hearing stories. I really wanted to be like my brother. I wanted to grow up and be just like him. I idolized him, and I was that annoying sister that followed him around constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean constantly. When I was at home and he was at home, I was always following him, wanting to know where he was, wanting to do things just like my brother. I recently lost my brother, for those of you that don't know, so it's really hard for me to talk about. I'm still in the grieving process, so please be patient with me. I may have times that I get really emotional, and I may have times that I have to pause or I have to cry like I'm doing now. My voice may crack, and I hope that just shows people that grief is okay. Grief is a way for us to show how much we loved someone. Grief tells the story of how powerful this person was in our lives, and how they affected us in such powerful ways. And grief has no time limit. It's not like when you reach a certain time, you need to be over it. Or, sometimes just randomly grief will come in the power of words and the power of memories, of thoughts. And we have no control over that. And we just need to remember that we can't expect other people to just be over things. We can't expect there to be a time limit on the pain someone feels in the grieving process. There's so many different aspects to grieving, and we can talk about that at a later date. And I will share my story about grief with you. So thank you for your patience again. So when we talk about my brother, he had so many traits and so many wonderful qualities that I feel like people overlooked for the majority of his life. But I'm so grateful that I was able to see those qualities and characteristics of him. We shared a very special relationship. I don't think it was the normal sibling relationship. We depended on each other very much. And I remember this time when I was so excited I was going to be just like my brother. Now, when I say that I followed him everywhere, I mean everywhere. And so I was constantly going into rooms where he was, going in, following right behind him. If there was a door between us, I would definitely open that door just randomly because I wanted to see what he was up to. Did he have a secret that he wasn't telling me? Was he doing something fun without me? Why was that door closed? To me, he should not have time by himself. He should not have time without me. And that I'm sure led to frustration for him. And there were times that he did show that frustration. But there were also times where he just gave in and just let me be that little sister that was roaming around, that wanted to be with him constantly, where I would sit in his room and invade his personal space all the time. And this had to do with the bathroom. I would always follow him, and as I said before, if there was a door closed, well, I wanted to know what was going on. And so I would open the door, and I would always see his back when he was in the bathroom using the bathroom. And he would yell at me to get out, close the door, leave him alone. Now, there was 8 years difference between us. He was older, even though as we got older, the roles began to reverse, and he began to ask me questions and to look up to me. And I often felt like he was the little brother. There was like a role reversal. But at this time, I was younger and it showed. And so I was used to opening the door and seeing his back before he yelled at me. And as I said before, I wanted to be just like him. So in this way, I was going to be just like him. And I was so proud. I thought about different things of, different ways I could be like him. And I would try and play baseball the way he did. I tried my best to play basketball the way he did, but I was never that good. He was always very good at basketball, and we always had a basketball goal in our backyard, and he would always play. and I would always want to be like him. He played the keyboard, and I would just sit there and listen in awe of what he could do. I got me a little keyboard at one point. I was never good at it, and I was never as good as him, but I would practice not knowing what I was doing. We would play video games together, and again, I would always want to be like him, so I would watch him play video games, and then I would try and remember what he did and how he played. I always wanted to eat the same food that he ate, and I would sit. I remember his friends would be sitting in his room talking about things and doing things that teenage boys do, and laughing, and I would just sit with them, and I would want to be like them. He had friends, Jason, Scott, and Mike, and they were his best friends. And they would always be in his room, and the door was closed. So again, the little sister had to open the door. And I would open the door, I would come in, and I would just plop down. I would just plop down right in the middle of their conversation, and I would just listen. I never knew what they were saying, but what they were talking about, but I would just listen intently. We watched movies together, and I thought that I was pretty important because he would let me watch movies with him. And he showed me my first horror movie, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I remember being so scared, but at the same time, I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to be just like him and not be scared of the movie. That's the only time I remember my dreams, and I had nightmares from that movie because I was so scared. That's one of the few times I do remember my dreams. But going back to the story that I wanted to tell, so I wanted to use the bathroom just like my brother. And I always saw him standing up with his back to me. So that's what I decided to do. I decided that I was going to try it since I wanted to be just like him. So this one particular time, I stood right at the toilet, and I peed. And there was a puddle on the floor. And I remembered that didn't happen with him. And I remember thinking of what a failure I was, how I couldn't be like my brother. So I tried several times to do that over the next week. And no matter how much I tried, I still couldn't do it. There was nothing I could do that made me able to stand and use the bathroom and go right in the toilet. Nothing I could do, and I tried lots of different things. So finally, I just got so frustrated that I just started crying. And I remember the frustration, and I just started screaming and crying because I was so upset that I couldn't be like my Bubba J. And I wanted to. And so when I started crying so loudly, my parents came in to the bathroom, and they wanted to know what happened, why I was crying, why was I so upset. And I told them, and then they couldn't help but laugh a little bit. But then they realized that only made me cry more, and that frustrated me more. And so they stopped and tried to comfort me. And then my brother came in, and he saw the puddle on the floor, and I remember going to him and telling him what I was doing, and that I was so upset because I couldn't be like him. And I remember he just patted me on the shoulder and comforted me and said it was okay. He explained to me that girls just can't be like boys, that there's differences between us, and that was okay. And at that time, I didn't understand, but I accepted it. And I felt better because he was okay with it. Because he was older, he knew that there were many things about girls that couldn't be about boys, like boys, all of the time. And he wanted me to know that it was okay. That it was okay. And looking back on that moment and that story, I felt like it was a valuable lesson to me. Because at the time, I tried to force something. I wanted to rush something. I had a goal. I thought I could do it. I wanted to rush it. And I would do anything to accomplish my goal. Looking back, that kind of became the way I thought about things, and sometimes I would try and force things at the moment, and I would set goals for myself, and I would want to accomplish those in my time. when I wanted to accomplish it, when I wanted the goal. I wanted things in leaps and bounds. I wanted things yesterday. And it became my way of thinking. And it became my way of life for a long time. I seemed to be patient with everybody else in the world, but I wasn't patient with myself at all. I thought no matter what, I should be able to do things. I should be able to instantly do things. But I never looked at the idea that sometimes things take longer. Sometimes things are a process, and sometimes getting to things, getting to our goals are a process. Whatever the goals may be, I never thought about just waiting and being patient with myself, really understanding myself, determining if that goal is really possible, or if that goal was just me dreaming and my idea of things, and my idea of the way things should be. When going back to my illness when I was in my teenage years, my teenage years definitely didn't turn out the way I thought. And definitely didn't turn out the way that I wanted. And after my teenage years and the disappointment that I had, instead of being able to go to school, instead of being able to hang out with my friends, instead of being able to do all the things that teenagers normally do, that's part of your teenage experience, I didn't have that. I was laying in a bed with limited movement. And after that experience, I tried to force a lot of things. I tried to force myself to do things that I just couldn't do. And I tried to force myself and force other people to view me like I wanted them to view me. And I tried to force my way through life. I tried to force myself to be somebody that I couldn't necessarily be. And when I couldn't be that person, I couldn't accept it either. And I struggled with this for a long time. And then when I went to college, I had that same experience where things didn't quite go the way that I thought they should go. And it was hard for me to accept. when I was in my car accident and I had my head injury, I immediately wanted to go right back to how I was. I immediately wanted to be the person that I was before the accident. I never thought about not being able to be that person and to accept the person that I was at that time, accept the new me. I never thought about how I was a new person and I could never get back that old Mel, the old way that I used to be. I would never be able to do the things that I used to be able to do. And it was hard for me. And I spent a lot of my life trying to be that person. I spent a lot of my life trying to go back and to be the person I was, trying to force things upon myself and look at myself and try and force things that couldn't happen. I did this with various circumstances in life. I did this with various relationships in my life. I did this with every part of my life, trying to force things that just were not going to happen and not going to be able to happen. But, you know, I always would remember, and I would always think about this particular time. For whatever reason, I don't know. I have had many people throughout my life comfort me in some way or another in this struggle to be my old self. I have had many people from various backgrounds in various ways tell me that I was okay just the way I was, to tell me that I was a good person, to tell me that I was a strong person, to tell me all these different positive things about myself. But my mind wouldn't let me believe those things. But for a fraction of a moment, when I thought about this particular story and I thought about the feelings and the emotions that this story brought to me when I was so young and so impressionable, and when my brother told me that it was okay to be me, and it was okay if I wasn't someone else, and it was okay if I just accepted myself. He taught me not to force anything, even if it was a fraction of a second. I would think about this, and even if it was a fraction of a second, I would remember those emotions and those feelings. When he would say that, and when he put his hand on my shoulder to comfort me, at that time, I didn't listen. At that time, I had my mind made up, and no matter what, I was going to work at it until I got my goal. But sometimes we don't get our goals, and that's okay. It's okay if you don't reach a goal. But it's not okay to force that goal and to keep forcing that goal. It's not okay to force something. It's not okay for you mentally. It's not okay for you physically, because our minds and bodies are tied together. It's not okay for us to mentally be healthy if we're trying to force ourselves in certain situations to be other people, if we're trying to force ourselves to make relationships happen, if we force ourselves to fit into a box that society tells us that we have to be. With this story, my brother told me this, but he didn't know he was telling me this. I didn't know he was telling me this until I started reflecting on my life and realizing that, yeah, it's a funny story, but it also has such a powerful impact. And I didn't realize how many times I thought of that story. I didn't realize in that short moment that it wasn't long, it wasn't days, it wasn't hours, it was just a moment. But I didn't realize what an impact that would have. And that simple act of telling me that I was okay just the way I was, and just explaining to me that sometimes we can't force things to happen. And reflecting on my life, I realized that I used that story and those words and those emotions that I felt at that time. I've used it throughout my life to try and explain those exact things to me. Sometimes it only takes a moment, and I feel like I say that so many times, and if you listen to this podcast, throughout this podcast, I have said that so many times, and I'll continue to say that. Moments are so impactful. Moments from strangers are so impactful. Moments from our families and friends are very impactful too. And I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the moments with our friends and family. But I'm just trying to bring to everyone's attention the moments with strangers as well. And you'll hear me say that a lot. This was a moment that was shared with my brother that was so special, and the fact that we understood each other so well. He understood how to react to me and how best to talk to me, even when I was the annoying sister, even when we argued and fought just like all siblings do. He always knew how to talk to me. and how to make things so that I could understand. And I hope that I have said something to you that you understand. I hope that me bringing these words and these stories to you make you laugh, may make you cry, but bring attention to some of these ideas that I've learned and that I wanted to share with you. Just like my brother told me, there are some things you can't force. And when I say that, I'm talking about the box that society has for us. The box that tells us we have to have these characteristics or we have to behave certain ways to be good enough to be what society thinks, who society thinks we are. These boxes of limitations that I know that I fell into and I tried to force myself into, and that I cut pieces of myself off to try and fit into. If I look back throughout the stories of my life and throughout the times of my life that I was trying to do this, my brother in various ways would tell me that I was okay just the way I was. He would show me that I didn't have to try and fit into a box. I could just be myself, and that was good enough. So I want to say that to you so that you don't spend years and years trying to be something you're not. Spending years and years trying to fit into the box that society designed. The box that said, you may not be this yet, but do more so that you can, because that's what we say is good. You can't have these struggles. You can't have these differences. You have to fit the mold. And the mold is who you were, or the mold is what you're trying to be. That's not accurate. There is no box. There is no mold. Just be yourself. Be yourself and shine the light that you have in this world. Shine your light in this world. Give off your energy to this world. Let people see you for you, and not something that you try and force yourself to be. So I want to thank you so much for listening to this. I want to thank you for allowing me to talk to you, for allowing me to share my life with you, to share my stories with you, to share my brother with you. And I hope that I said something in this moment that'll affect you in a positive way. And just remember that whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, you do not have to struggle alone.